Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Critical Fools podcast. This is episode number 71, where we will be reviewing today the cult classic, really, 1995 movie Friday by none other than Ice Cube and a lot of other people who really had breakout roles because of this film. But we'll definitely get more into that. But this is not my first time viewing Friday. I mean, seen it this is probably my third or fourth viewing. But Chris, my co-host, has never seen this before, so kind of wanted to get his thoughts on this since it was his first viewing. So what do you think, Chris?
I thought the movie was solid. I could see why it's a cult classic for some folks.
For numerous reasons.
And I was able to learn that why a certain NFL player is called Debo too. That was interesting.
So for those of you who don't know, Chris is a big Niners fan, a big fan of Debo Samuel, and he just learned the origin because of this movie of how Debo got his name.
Well, no, I read about the origin, but I never seen the film that they were all referencing, and I was like, right. I never got around to it, and I was like, oh, okay, now I finally seen it. So. But yeah, I thought the film was cool.
He's a scary dude. Yeah.
I thought the film was interesting. It was funny at times. My favorite scene is the Miss Parker one, when she's dressed up basically seductively. And the funny part about the scene is not just because she's hot and she's married to I don't want to say the word, but married.
Go ahead, say it, Chris. This is we're an unfiltered pod.
Married to a midget. But the funny part about that scene is actually. And I had to actually rewatch it because I was I almost missed it. But she's watering dirt, so the whole scene is it's like filmmaking. It's funny, but it's filmmaking techniques. That's kind of their fine technique. Where if you're really most guys are just gonna be looking at a certain area. I almost didn't realize that she was not watering anything. I was dying. Dude. I was like, this is good. Dude. This is clever. Because I was like, wait, I almost missed that. I had to actually go back, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, maybe she's watering freshly planted seeds, but I doubt it. I don't think that's the point of that scene. I think it's probably to make fun of guys who just oogling,
yeah.
But I think that scene in many ways encapsulates some of the movies techniques to be funny, and it's just
of course, they had some really good techniques for this and good lines. I also thought I was piggybacking off of that scene or extending it. I was dying when Ice Cube's mom comes out too and looks over at the field and sees her, and she's like, "What in God's green earth is wrong with her dressed like that?" And she's like, "Hey, girl," being super fake was the funniest thing. I was like, I know too many people who've done stuff like that.
I think a lot of people are like that.
Hell yeah,
yeah. What's funny is that I'm not like that, and I actually recently got kind of ripped for not being that way.
For not being fake.
Yeah, I was. I was.
I think I know who. Does it involve people we know?
No. This is recent. I just won a pickleball tournament, and I was I missed a few weeks because I was let's just say out of pocket, and then I come back to win it all. Anyways, after
hold on. In that case, what do you mean by out of pocket?
I was just out of the country. Anyways,
I don't think that's how most people use out of pocket, by the way. But anyway, go ahead.
Hey, I use also not the best lingo guy, but my teammate had befriended our opponent, I guess, the week prior, and then she goes you're all going to the same train station. You should walk with them. I was like, no, I like a particular entrance I like, and she's just like, why are you so mean? I was just like, no,
you're not even mean. You're blunt.
Yeah, I'm just I'm not gonna just become friends with them because we're gonna walk 5 minutes to the same station. Come on, so I just went home by myself. I was just but to your point, people are like that. It's I guess it's convenient to be pleasant. I guess maybe that's the way to look at it.
Yeah, I view it as more fake, but anyway. But I was like, man, I've met too many people like that who have that kind of response over something. I'm like, I know that's not how you feel. You got to put up a straight.
I just think it's most people where they're just polite, but deep down they're like, I hate this person or I dislike them. I don't want to be around them. And it's well, then just don't be around them. You don't have to pretend that you like them. So
yeah, exactly. But anyway, were there any others specific? So this movie synopsis is just a day in the life in the hood, and Ice Cube and Chris Tucker just get into some stuff. Mainly, it's Chris Tucker gets him in a bad situation, and Yeah, and things just happen from there. But there's nothing like too crazy about this storyline. It's more just funny because I think a lot of people can relate to many aspects of the film in different ways through their lives,
Oh,
and I think that's why it's become such a cult
another
classic.
early.
Kind of,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can.
Another early scene is that, like, you know how Craig's like, I forgot her name, but you know, like the quote unquote girlfriend that's like ripping him, like, why are you with
Yeah.
her? But if you look in that scene, she's calling him, and there's a dude right next to her. I was like, dying. I was
Who was that? How he was with last night at the club? Like killed me. And like when she's and then ripping to him.
I know, and I was just like, okay, like this is, and that's when I was like, this is gonna be that kind of movie. I was like, it's too funny, dude.
I mean, like I took this movie because it's a cult classic, but it gets you to like, it's pretty funny. It gets you to laugh quite a bit.
It does, yeah, it does. I could see why it's a cult classic. You know, I think the movie's like funny, at times absurd,
But I think that's the point. I think sometimes, you know, and we've talked about this with Vince Staples. Life is just absurd, and you know, you're trying to like tease out some of the like crazy things that can possibly maybe like obviously not to that degree, but we've all had like crazy or absurd things that have happened in our lives. I think that's also what the film was trying to tease out too. It's kind of the absurdity of some life situations.
Yeah, so I thought that was a funny scene. But yeah, like you said, the synopsis, the day of your life, there's some drama. I mean, mainly, I guess the climax is the Debo element, but I think to your point, it's kind of like slice of life kind of film, where like
it's very slice of life, or like stupid things like Chris Tucker's like my stomach not feeling well, and he's running back and forth. Can I use your bathroom? And then John Witherspoon's character is like, the only person laying a deuce in my bathroom was myself. Shuts the door, and Chris Tucker's there in the street and has to go.
Yeah,
go find a bush because he can't get in his own home. Like things like that were just killing me in this movie.
Yeah, and then you have Felicia's character who was like this freeloader beggar kind of, but she's also like the sister of Debbie. It was interesting, like that whole neighborhood dynamic as well.
Yeah, so I don't know if you were like fully aware, but like I don't know, some time ago, like 5-6 years ago, like that was a big cultural thing that got revived. Where like, you know, when if she Felicia is Ice Cube or something, it's like Craig, what about you? And he's like, bye, Felicia. Like that, like started becoming like a.
I've heard that. I've heard that phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that got revived, and like it all stemmed. This film was very influential, I would say, for like a lot of like cultural things, or just like things that people say in like in current culture, like throughout the last 20 years. So it's interesting, kind of the impact that it's had in that way.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like even the like when they look and he's like, "What's up with your eye?" And he like, you know, shows the black eye he got from Debo, and they look, damn, like there's so many times people have used that GIF as in like everyday conversations. It's definitely one of the most popular. So it's got a lot of iconic scenes.
Yeah, the Smokey's character is hella funny. I mean, the smoking the weed, like it's actually like somebody else's that he owes money, and then he actually causes all the problems, which is like hilarious. Dude.
I love it. I love like some of his deflecting because you call some people on it, and I've met some people like Smokey or have that kind of like. I think we both know someone. Why are you bringing up stuff from the past? What are you talking about? Like you were just asking about like what my issue is. But it's just funny because the deflections are hilarious that Smokey is.
Yeah. Even his last scene, the ending is like, you know, where he says like "psych," just kidding. You know, like he's trying to be clean. I was like, no, you're not, dude. You're a certain way always. So.
He's a stoner. That's what Smokey is. I mean, you don't get a nickname like Smokey if you're not a stoner.
That's true.
It's just what it is. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of funny. Oh, Bernie Mac's character killed me too. The fake preacher.
Yeah. It was too much. Yeah, definitely fake.
You know, that's the devil's lettuce right there. Why don't you pass me some?
I know. Yeah, and then there were some like high level cheesy lines about like I got a gun. He's like, "You be a man, use your." I was like, okay, guys. Like,
yeah, some of it was over the top cheesy, of course.
Yeah,
but I mean, this is not supposed to be the most deep film. It's just kind of funny, kind of day in the life kind of stuff. You're not going to get anything that's too too deep thematically, I would say.
But, yeah, I guess like we're not gonna like obviously there's not much to analyze maybe in the film. So I'm actually we could analyze maybe why do you think it's for it's a cult classic? Like why is it in many ways a cultural? Is it because it's some of the style stuff? Is it some of the the casting?
I think it's for the day in the life. I think it's the acting for one. I think people probably don't like. I think everyone knows like archetypes of a lot of these characters in their lives, right? Maybe not directly, but I think it's just like, oh yeah, like kind of like what I was saying that like the way the mom responded to being fake. It's like, yeah, people like we definitely know someone. The preacher coming, the Jehovah's Witnesses knocking out your door. People have, especially maybe not because obviously society's shifted a little bit with technology, but like back in the 90s, people used to like go outside. Like maybe not the younger generation today, but you used to have your home phone, you would dial, things like that. You might go hang out with some friends. So I think it was very relatable to a lot of people at that point in time in the 90s. Like obviously they're just hanging out in the front, and then like the whole movie is basically like one person comes in, they have an interaction, that person leaves, another person, oh shoot, look who's coming down the block kind of deal. But I think it's kind of the relatability of people knowing some of these archetypes in their lives. That's I think why it was so impactful. I don't know. I mean, what's your take? Because obviously you've heard of this. You've never seen this movie, but you've heard of this movie probably many times.
Yeah, I think like when I think of a cult classic, I think a movie that probably wasn't like the big box office hit during its time, but it resonated with enough people who became kind of influential. So like, and also I think partly is also like, some of the cast, they weren't huge as they are now, especially like Ice Cube and obviously Chris Tucker. But like,
Bernie Mac, massive.
Yeah, I meant definitely after. Yeah. And so I think like, I think that plays a part too, right? I've noticed that when we just think of cult classics, they're usually some kind of like, those casts end up, becoming
having big. It's kind of the big break.
And then also I think there are certain elements of the film that probably like people resonate with that like look like you said like earlier, like somebody named their kid after a character like
Debo.
Yeah, so
these things of the block.
These don't like happen if it's like just a meh film or like it's just an Oscar winning. Like usually people aren't watching some Oscar winning film going like I need to name my kid Elizabeth. Like,
or you name your kid Smokey would be wild.
That would be wild. Yeah, that would be wild. But yeah, I think in that regard, it's it's interesting to think of that because like certain films will resonate with certain communities and certain people. Because I imagine when it was released, it wasn't the hit with the affluent Rhode Islanders. I'm imagining.
No, that's kind of later on. But I think this film was very influential to hip hop, especially because Ice Cube being part of NWA at that point. So I think it probably picked up steam quite quickly. Yeah, is my guess. Just another tidbit, something that I don't know if you know, but Craig's sister, Ice Cube's character. Do you know who she is?
She looks familiar.
Her name's Regina King. She's done a lot, but one of the things I know her for, because she's super talented, is she did the voices of both Huey and Riley in the Boondocks.
Oh wow!
Yeah, if you see her, you'd be like, "Wait, she did both voices," and it's crazy when she does that. Like, they have video of her in like the recording studio, and she's having a conversation like she's both characters, just with herself right there. It's wild to see.
Wow, that's yeah.
You're looking it up right now?
I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing a video. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I didn't know like the same person did both voices, especially with two different voices and two different personalities. And she did an insane job with that.
Yeah, I mean Regina King is pretty famous for like I think she's done a lot of sitcoms. I know that. Yep. I think I recognize her. I know why, because she was in Boys in the Hood, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's why I love that film. But yeah, that's probably why because obviously a lot of this cast.
Yeah, a lot of these people in the minor characters, I was like, man, I've seen them. I can't quite pinpoint, but I've seen them in other roles. So it's not like this is definitely like a big breakout. And I think even Cat Williams talked about that in his interview because he was in I think the subsequent film like Next Friday. So they for your reference too. So they had Friday, and then obviously it became kind of a cult classic. So I think in 2000 or 2001, they had Next Friday and then Friday After Next. And so Cat Williams kind of got it. Cat Williams and Terry Crews, I believe, both got pretty big breaks from those films. So Ice Cube, I would say from this franchise, say what you will about if you like this film or not, but he really helped launch a lot of people's careers, especially a lot of people within a lot of black actors. So it's pretty interesting seeing that.
I didn't know there was a trilogy.
Yeah, well, now you know. Cat Williams' character is hilarious, by the way, if you ever see clips.
It's funny.
Like the film itself is just okay, but his character, because he plays a pimp in that movie, and it's so funny.
You're right. It's Friday and Friday After Next. Wow, that's creative.
Yeah, but anyway, it just goes to show like how influential this initial movie was. But yeah, anyway, were there any other scenes you really want to talk about? A lot of it is just kind of like funny moments, funny scenes, like Easel. Oh, by the way, it killed me. I do have to say, like when they went to the gas station initially to get the pack of smokes for Smokey's mom, they go in and Easel is there with he's like, yo, Smokey, let me $2. And he goes in and he takes the 40, but he like falls in there and oh my back. Like he's like, I'm gonna sue you. He's like, but I won't see if you give me $20.
I know, it's so funny. No, I think the only scenes to talk about is like maybe Craig and his dad, and that's it. You know, like that's the only thing I could note is that like that was an interesting dynamic where like this comes up a lot, I think, in like in black films that like the cross, like we actually just touched upon in the Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, right? That cross-generational dynamic. It's interesting how like that does come up often, even in like their comedies of like that's an important theme, you know, of like you viewed it a certain way and some of your points are valid, but times have changed, you know. I always find that
fascinating. Are you talking about like the whole gun scene?
Gun, and also like even the beginning where like, you know, he tells him to get a job and like, you know, because he just got laid off, right? That's the whole also some of the premise is that like he got
laid off. No, he got fired on his day off.
Yeah, so fired and then he gets that job back. But I think that's the only other thing to note. But no, I mean it's just a solid like comedy, you know, that has
it's a funny movie. It's pretty rewatchable in that regard too, because I feel like a lot of comedies are in general. It's one thing about the genre.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't like about the genre, but yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I like those hard hitting. We don't need to be funny anymore. I was just kidding.
Never. You do. Speaking of someone who goes to comedy shows a fair amount, we don't need a laugh.
I laugh. I like laughing at people. You know, I like laughing at other people. Yeah, and their situations. But,
this guy.
Yeah. We don't need Hollywood wasting resources on them. They wasted on superhero movies.
Hold on. Whoa. Time out. This was Ice Cube at the beginning, and he like helped self-fund most of this film.
Well, this is why these are the good comedies when they're like, you know, scrapping.
Okay. You're not talking about like the blockbuster comedy. I was like, this is very like indie kind of comedy.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll pick a blockbuster comedy. We'll be able to compare.
I don't like every blockbuster comedy.
No, most suck. If we're honest, most suck. They're there really for like easy cash for this.
Oh, by the way, when I will say the other funny thing is when Ice Cube actually gets high and then like he starts hallucinating. Like, my phone ring. I was dying.
His heart rate. He's like, what?
Something's not right. My heart's right. No, just chill. And then he goes inside, comes out. My phone ring. I was dying of laughter with some of those times.
I was also dying where like they have milk when they have cereal but no milk, and then like they have like Kool-Aid but like was it no
sugar? No sugar.
I was dying, dude.
And then Chris Tucker rips him. He's like, "You only got half of what you need for everything."
I was dying. That was so funny.
That's some good moments. Anyway, like this is pretty short. It's pretty light. Kudos to Ice Cube for taking a risk, because I'm sure he just got a little bit of money from NWA that really helped launch this franchise and launch a lot of people's careers, really. So I just want to give him props for that, regardless of what you think of the film. But yeah, we can get into ratings. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I would say solid film, very rewatchable. It was good. I think what's hurting my rating a little bit is that this is not my genre per se. Like I don't
Yeah.
pick many, as you know, like comedies.
I mean, one thing I think you got to get better at though is like reading it for what it is, if that makes sense.
I'm
Like
stubborn. It's never gonna
but
happen.
it's not going to be burning, right? But you got to rate it in terms of like, especially in terms of the genre of comedies and really what the influence was. But anyway, you go ahead and give it whatever. rating you
Well,
want.
if I did that, like, I probably have probably other comedies I could probably
Yeah,
kick out.
I don't disagree with that, but
In the
well, give
but
context is what I'm saying.
yeah, but I don't need to do that. I'm this is my podcast, dude. I don't have to do anything I don't want to. This is my platform. I learned from another podcast I listen to every Friday that it's your platform, so you can do whatever you want.
Are you the world's greatest moderator, Chris?
No, I am the world's greatest reviewer of movies. Forget those other pods, dude. They got that sensible taste and the hard ratings. Dude.
Yeah.
But this is a solid film, like one that I think is you would watch with friends and casually. You can talk, laugh, joke. That's always a good sign for a comedy because sometimes comedies either get too corny or they get really serious, and you're like, "What is going on here?"
Mm-hmm. A little preachy sometimes. It's like this is not what I signed up for.
Especially with newer comedies, I've noticed they've gone a little bit more preachy. So I would say this reminds me of a time where comedies were still trying to hit that perfect tone. And so I actually would give this a 7.5 out of 10. It's a solid rating on my side.
Yeah.
I don't like
that's pretty high praise.
Yeah, I know when I usually want to give movies like 5s, but
yeah. So it sounds like this movie did something right then for you.
Yeah, it's really like solid. I think it's good. I think I have a hard time like giving any comedy like really
higher than an 8, I imagine.
Yeah. And so that's what's difficult here. But I will say that like this movie, unlike other comedies, like you said, it's not preachy. It tries to balance fun and being like a little serious on like some topics. But like I think what comedy sometimes can forget is like there's other films and books you can read to get deeper. And if you just touch it, it's good enough. But like you said, either you get too corny or you get kind of preachy. Most comedy films actually suffer with the corny stuff. I feel like this movie wasn't. It was funny. It was kind of like corny when it had to. It didn't overdo it with like,
it got a little too corny with me with the interact. Well, just how it came to be with like the fists up and being a man. I was like, I get it.
That was the most corny part of the movie, which I
get it. And probably at that point when you had like a lot of hip hop gang violence, like it was probably a necessary message, but it's just, I feel like they could have done it in a better way or delivered that message in a better way.
Yeah, I think that, it was kind of corny, cheesy, but I think it fit a little bit just because like they had set that kind of tone, I think through Smokey. I think like to your point, like I've seen movies where it's funny and then they get really corny and you're like, wait, am I watching a different film now? Like what happened here? That's just too weird, and I think, luckily it didn't do that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it's nothing crazy. Like it's definitely a recommend versus you can pass on. So
yeah, I mean, I kind of echo everything you say. That was kind of my only gripe. I was like, I get it, but like I feel like they shouldn't have been that over the top. Like I don't like when it's like super over the top when you're trying to deliver a message like that. But given the probably the time and when this was made, and especially in LA, right, you probably were fresh off around the time of the Rodney King riots. There's probably a lot going on during that time within the context. So I get kind of why they put that in there and what Cube and everyone who's writing the script was probably trying to get at, trying to hone in on. I thought the acting was phenomenal. I mean, so many people got big breaks from this, like even like Regina King, Bernie Mac, John Witherspoon, who's also a legend. John Witherspoon, if you don't know that dad, he was also the voice of Granddad from the Boondocks. So like without this like movie, would there really be a Boondocks? Like, I don't know. In terms of like the voices and how iconic that animated show has become pop culturally. Right. Chris Tucker, obviously, you have the Rush Hours. There's so many people, so many big names in this film. It was actually like really insane to see them so early on. So you got to give whoever did the casting a lot of credit there. Yeah, I got to give this movie an 8.5. It'd be a little higher if it wasn't It is kind of corny with some of those be a man scenes, but yeah, that's kind of where I rate it.
8.5.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. John Witherspoon also voiced one. He was in one episode of BoJack Horseman. I'm learning something new.
Oh yeah,
every day.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
He did one line.
Like I'm saying, this was a star-studded cast.
Yeah, rocket ship to the moon. Yeah.
So what I will say is you got to give Ice Cube a lot of credit because we talk about how a lot of people today, like people we like, take risks and try to upset industries. I feel like Ice Cube did this quite a bit with this movie.
He did that not just with the film, but more importantly, he did that with music. One day I want to get to that film, dude. That was such a good film too.
Straight Outta Compton?
Oh yeah, dude. One of my favorite movies. I was like, let's go, dude. And then like I remember my sister going.
I never watched that movie.
I remember my sister going like, you know that every like white person is watching this pretending that they're hood. I was like, yeah, that's what's wrong with society. Like,
but I mean, that's what everyone was doing with 8 Mile and Eminem.
That's true. But
I mean, think about it, Chris. When we were growing up, I knew a kid I went to middle school with, and we were in friggin' Silicon Valley, had the Eminem haircut. Thought he was going to be the next Eminem kind of deal.
Yeah,
I mean, that was kind of the era we grew up in.
Yeah, but Eminem, that's 8 Miles, another movie about that
hard life.
I've seen that
movie. I like that movie a lot too.
That's a good movie. Yeah, I mean, hard life in Detroit. People forget about that blue collar. Sorry, I don't want to go on my soapbox.
From the wrong side of the tracks, 8 Mile Road.
Exactly. That's a good movie too. But it was just interesting because like I just know for a fact that like obviously my sister's generation, which is Gen Z, like. They didn't know anything about NWA. They just thought saw the trailer. They saw the trailer and they're like, "Oh, this looks sick." And then like, they went to see the movie and like, "Oh yeah, like really interesting hearing, like listen to the history." I was like, "Okay, guys, like calm down."
Well, yeah, dude, I knew someone. She would have been like borderline millennial, borderline Gen Z. Didn't really know too much. She thought it was around the time NWA came out, maybe a little bit later. But she's like, I thought Ice Cube was just this like corny actor. I didn't realize like. All of it is past. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? There's a reason why he had this trajectory later on that you're seeing.
Yeah, now he's become more of an overall entertainer, but at his core, he's a musician, man. Like,
Well, he's influential as fuck.
Yeah, dude. The Easy.
That's sorry.
Yeah. So that was good. No, it was good. It's a movie I'm trying to get around to. I don't know when, but it's one of my favorite movies of the 2010s. So
it was great.
Yeah, the Straight Outta Compton is good. I watched it on an airplane once, and I was just like, yeah, this is good. Everybody else watching like some comedy. I like how most people watch like random like popular halal blockbuster. There I was watching. That's also when I first I had to turn it off when I started watching The Girlfriend Experience, and I realized there was kids next to me. I was like, I'm turning that off. I can't be showing this.
I saw a couple episodes. I was like, this show is wild.
I was just like, why is this on the airplane? That was my first thought, actually. I was like, why is this even an option?
No, there's some things you see on the airplane. I was like, yo, they need to chill with some of this content they allow.
I know, dude. I was like, wait, this shouldn't be allowed. It was like a movie scene, dude. I was like watching it, and then I looked to my left because I'm in the aisle.
4-year-old.
It's like 6, 7. I'm like, I have to turn this off now.
Yeah, man.
This kid's gonna be like looking at my screen going,
Sorry, dude.
What's going on, dude?
Yeah, that kid's gonna be in therapy talking about that plane ride.
Probably, dude. Oh man, dude. But no, it was good. So I'll let you wrap it up. But it's good.
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much our final ratings. Pretty short episode this week, but yeah, if you enjoyed our conversation on this movie, please like and subscribe to our channel, and please give us any recommendations as to what films you think that my co-host and I should review next. And on that, we're out.